And so I think that would probably be the biggest reason. So, I mean, obviously they respect him greatly, but that's probably, that would probably be the biggest reason.
Yes, sir.
Something like that.
So I'm sure you read the Burnside article.
Yep.
That's follow up to yours.
Yep.
And so
by the way, there was just on one thing, there was a lot of people that said, Russo ghost wrote this story. If that's the right way to say that.
Sure.
But that's just completely inaccurate. I mean, Scott and I are extremely close. He did not talk to me once before he wrote that. Obviously, he reads what I write. And the only thing he did, and actually, I will say this, the only thing he did is he sent me the story around 6-something or whatever time last night to give it a read to make sure he didn't screw anything up. And by the time that I even opened it, because I was driving, and I had a ton of calls, I got to Delwood Country Club just to kind of like sit and just relax after a long day. And I was sitting outside, and I had so many calls and texts to respond to that I didn't all day, that by the time I opened his email and read it, all of a sudden I looked, and the story had been up on our site for an hour. So like, I really had nothing to do with it. It's not like when I was at the Star Tribune and I ghost wrote our columnists' columns.
Well, it's good to have somebody bring down the expectations every once in a while.
So in that article, he brought up that Leopold needs to not take one but 2 steps back from the Wild, which you kind of already answered that question about, is Leopold too involved with the Wild, because he is a super fan and he owns the team. So I was reading an article today on ESPN from, I think it's Steve Wisniewski and Emily Kaplan.
Greg.
They were talking about who the Wild should hire and not go down the retread route. And the only retread that they had was Hextall, and Wisniewski was talking up Wyshynski, sorry. Was talking up Zito from Columbus, and Kaplan was talking about your guy, Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Zito, because I haven't heard much about
I mean, Bill has been a long-time agent. He's been in Columbus for 6 years. He is very respected. He is also dealing with some off-ice health issues to his family right now. Within 48 hours, his mother and his wife were diagnosed with cancer. And this weekend, he's in just a gigantic, amazing bike race to raise awareness for that. He pulled out of Seattle because of the health reasons. I did a lot of due diligence on this today. His wife in particular is doing a lot better right now and is in a good place. And I think that he'd be interested in this job. They haven't called to ask for permission yet. Tommy Fitzgerald, I mean, former captain, one of the greatest people I've ever covered, worked in both Pittsburgh and New Jersey with Shiro, and just has a great relationship with him. He's in Plymouth right now scouting the USA Hockey thing, but they have, as of this afternoon, I don't think asked for permission to talk to him yet, which to me jives with what I've heard. The way it was explained to me, which it does bother me, is that last year was a different time, and now after hiring a newbie, they want somebody with NHL experience. I just think that just one failed mistake by a guy that should have been more prepared, shouldn't all of a sudden make you think that you can't hire somebody that's never had full NHL GM experience. But right now he might not be the just because he was the runner-up last year. I don't think they're going to be like, all right, we're sorry, we made a mistake, you're hired. I think Hextall is the front runner right now. The problem with Hextall, and I don't know him great, even though I've covered the league a long time, but I've really never dealt with him. But talking to a ton of people that I hope that Craig and Matt are talking to as well. So he has a lot of personality traits that Paul had, from a standpoint that very patient, wants to build from within, which isn't a bad thing, but you have an owner that, how's that going to mesh with his personality? Small, trusted inner circle, and keeps everything close to the vest, and is a very big micromanager and stuff like that. So, the one name that absolutely intrigues me, and I know I freaking angered Carolina Hurricanes fans today like I was throwing stuff against the wall, but all I could tell you, if you're listening, Carolina, is I don't throw against the wall. Sorry, Brandon. Bleep. And sorry to the 4-year-old I saw there. Sorry. Anyway.
If he's going to hear it, he should hear it here first.
But let me just promise you, Don Waddell is available for this job, is interested in this job, and will talk to the Wild. He is a free agent. It's unbelievable that a GM that did as good a job as he did this year to get that team to the Eastern Conference Final and has had a great summer offseason and stole You Don't Need a Writer is a free agent right now. He does not have a contract past June 30th, and I get the impression it pisses him off. And I think he's very interested, and I think the Wild are interested in him. And I think that now maybe at the end of the day, what it does is, like a lot of times, all of a sudden that contract in Carolina is going to get done because Minnesota's interested. Who knows? But I do think that the Wild are going to have a conversation with Don Waddell, and he for what he did this year, and if you want experience from somebody that's been in the league a long, long time, that he might make sense. So,
good question. Thanks. Did you have another one? Are you good?
That was what I was going to ask about. Don Waddell. But while I'm up here, whoever they do hire as the next GM, is there anything that he could do to repair some of the bridges that were burned, as far as like the thing that he did? Well, I don't know if he did it per se. That bothers me the most is right now, like Andrew C. Thomas, Alexander Mandrick, you're both gone.
Yeah.
And if I'm a new GM, those like Andrew C. Thomas would probably be the first guy I would look at to bring in. But do you think he'd ever think about coming back?
With a new GM, maybe. The way I understand with Andrew is that he's got a really cool opportunity, not with a team, but in a private sector type of job that's going to be very much involved with the NHL and I don't want to give away too much, but he's got a really cool opportunity. The reason why I don't is I don't know if it's 100% certain and that it's done, and I shouldn't give it away. And Alex is obviously in Seattle. That ship has sailed. That was a big mistake, is that he really didn't have a lot of time for analytics, didn't show them a lot of respect. Obviously, he didn't bring him to he definitely didn't bring him to Florida before the Rask deal, or that trade probably wouldn't have happened, because they probably would have, not held down the phone. And then what he did is he let Andrew go before knowing 100% that Alex was returning, which, just wasn't a bright move. So, I think they have hired a new analytics person, whose name escaped me. I tweeted it last week. That worked for Hockey Canada, and I'm sure that will be that the next GM will look to expand that department. The Wild front office right now is pretty archaic. It's like the way it was done years ago. There's just not a lot of people in there. They don't have a sports science department, which a lot of teams now have. They don't have really an analytics person. They have, it's just the crumbs right now, and they've got to figure out a way to kind of, build that back up. So,
I think you've said enough.
I do too. Another uplifting podcast. Thanks for coming.
It's great therapy.
Yeah.
This started off as a therapy session back when we did our first podcast.
I was in such a great mood when I walked in here, too. So, what I should do is just, like I told you, I haven't written that story. I should just, have somebody transcribe our podcast and just, buy Michael Russo. And just put that on The Athletic on Friday.
I think you do your best writing here.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Another huge crowd.
Let me take a panorama picture here. How about that?
Oh, do that, and then send it to me.
Yeah. There we go. By the way, I'm terrible at panoramic pictures. If you saw my...
Just because you have jittery hands, because you drink gallons of coffee and never sleep.
There we go. Thank God that kid left before I cursed. So...
thank you all. We really appreciate it. Please give Michael a hand. Thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. August 14th and August 29th are the next tentative dates. Follow us on social media to make sure you get the updates. And thanks, Michael.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's no